Hey guys, welcome back to our Unity level creation video series. In our previous video, we created the prototype level using Unity's Pro Builder and ProGrids packages. In this new video, I am going to add some lighting to this level so that it looks more visible to the player rather than this strange black and white look. The current view actually is not very accessible to the player to traverse around while using the game camera. So let's try adding some lighting to this indoor level. First, I must make sure that this strange black and white lighting is removed from our scene. Actually, this light comes from our directional light that is by default added to our scene. You can either disable it from our inspector clicking here or Alt Shift A, and you can see now that entire strange lighting is removed from our scene. Then we can actually go to our lighting settings to add more to set more properties of our lighting in this scene. For that we can go to Window, Rendering and Lighting Settings. Okay, let's dock our tab here. So all of the properties that can be configured to change our lighting behaviors are collected in this lighting tab. So we have a section for environment lighting and we have a skybox source added there. So our level is actually mainly based on an interior environment which is not lit by something that is outside of that level. So since we do not need a skybox lighting, we can basically go for color, right? And then there's another skybox material in our environment lighting settings. We actually don't need this because we are not going to render the sky in this internal or interior level. So we can just select none from our selection window and close it. Right. So there is no light coming from exterior, which means the directional light or the environmental light. So if we go to Control P and check our play mode, there is some sort of another color, a very dim light going inside our level, right? That is actually this ambient color that is coming from this ambient environment lighting setting. So if we go and set this to black entirely and go to play mode, yeah, Now we actually can't see anything in our level. So now we can actually add our own lights into this level to make it more visually appealing. When you are lighting a scene for the interiors, or if you are doing an interior lighting process, there are a certain set of lights that can be used for this purpose. They are point lights, spotlights, and also we have emissive materials. So I think I can try adding an emissive material to our scene, to our level, so that we can add some sort of lights to our corridors. Before doing that, let's go to our assets folder and create a material for this emissive material. Let's make a folder for them as materials, and inside let's create a material. Let's call them lights. Okay, so when I select this lights material asset, our inspector populates with all the properties that can be configured in this material. Here we can check this emission checkbox and add the color that we want for this material to emit. So I'll for now let's select some sort of a color. Okay, right, you can actually see the preview in this small window as well. Now I'm going to create a small object so that we can render this material from that object's surface. Before that, let's organize our scene hierarchy here. Let's rename them as bridge. This is also a part of this bridge. Okay, right. And let's add a 3D object and a cube. Okay, so we have to add the light to this part of our level for this small corridor part. Let's actually start from that to light our scene. Let's go to top view and switch to isometric mode so that we can actually align this with our corridor. Let's rename this as light corridor light. Okay, and switch to move tool and place it somewhere like let's say here. Zoom in. Oops. Let's go back to our top view and lock it. Okay. I think this position is okay because we can place our lights in the middle or center line of our corridor's roof. So let's unlock our view, go back here and rotate this way. Okay, the lights outside the corridor. So let's move it inside. Right. Okay. We can see that the cube is entirely inside this corridor section. I'll keep my isometric view here. Mm, and let's assign our material into our cube. Okay. Okay, it's half outside our corridor now. So for our scale, y scale, let's do it 0.5, and let's try turning off snapping for now. And okay, keep it like that. Sure. Okay, but still, even though we added an emissive material, we cannot see any light actually casting on the corridor. For that, we have to make sure that the entire uh, level, the walls, corridors, and the two bridges and this light are checked as static objects in our level, which means they are not moving around in our scene. Then Unity can easily map light calculations and draw them into these surfaces. So I'll select this corridor light, bridge, and building. And I'm going to go to my inspector view and select static. Okay. Now, even though we have our static property selected for the objects, there's no change here. So let's check our lighting properties. In our lighting, let's keep this real-time global illumination checked off and keep this baked global illumination selected. We can bake light maps into our surfaces so that they don't have to be calculated again and again in our gameplay. And in our light mapping setting, we can select a light map calculating process type or calculation process. So normally progressive CPU is ideal if you don't have a very high graphics performance. In case you guys have a good GPU or good graphics card, you can switch to progressive GPU, but still it's in a preview mode for the latest versions of Unity. I'm going to select this guy here and we can select auto generate so that whenever you do a change in our scene, the light mapping recalculates and draws all the light maps again and again. We can check it by here and you can see a progress bar appearing here as baking. And if we check our baked light maps and preview it, you can see that all the geometry is mapped into a entire square shaped light map. If it takes longer than expected, you can uncheck the auto generate and let's go and clear baked data. Since I do have a good GPU plugged in, I'll go to progressive GPU because it takes way less time than progressive CPU to calculate the light maps. And instead of going auto generate, you can actually create this generate lighting as well. Okay, if you look closely here, let me zoom in. You can see our emissive material is actually uh, casting lights on our corridor walls. This will take some time to actually finish light mapping, so give it some time to complete. Okay, now if we select our bake light maps in our lighting settings, you can see the light maps. Now I'm going to leave auto generate for now, so that it's easier for me to show these outcomes in our scene. I'm going to uh, duplicate this light and extend it along the corridor. I think this light could be more intense to actually make this corridor more visible. So selecting our material, let's go back to our emission color and change the intensity a little bit. Now you can see again our light mapping automatically starts mapping the lighting for our level. So if we reduce this color again, you will notice how the calculations goes again and again. Okay, now I am going to select this cube and let's go back to our top view, zoom out, and for now let's uncheck our auto generate for the light maps and duplicate our light like this. Okay, so now let's try generate lighting again. You can actually check these lights in our game window as well if you want. See, uh, now it actually looks quite appealing to play around within this corridor part. Right. I'll lock my view here. So I think it's better if we could use this yellow color for all the corridors, so that this color uh, indicates that you are going to enter a certain corridor. So I'm going to duplicate this corridor light and place it along all the corridors uh, in our level. I'm not actually following any measurements here. I'm actually letting the ProGrids package uh, do the snapping part for me. So let's go to side view here. Okay. Now you can see that since our two corridors were in the same level, I easily placed all these lights into the next corridor. So I can snap them here a little bit. Let's delete this one and keep this to the center of this next corridor, right? I'm going to snap this cube, only this cube to this corner. Let's do it here. Okay. Now let's go back to our generate lighting here. So to check the result. Okay. Uh, just for fun, let's go back to play mode and check our progress here. Okay. Now we can actually get a small hint of the next corridor because of its lighting. So it's kind of useful as an indicator when traveling around the scene, right? Yeah. So now I'm going to keep adding my corridor lights here. I think it's better if we could remove some lights from here. It's too bright according to my belief. So let's delete a couple of lights here. Yeah, that's better. If I had an extra grid cell here for our corridor, we could actually snap these lights along the center of the next corridor as well. So let's try doing that. I'm going to rotate this guy here. Go to our building. Let's go to our Pro Builder window and flip the normals for now, and go to face selection. Let's zoom out a little bit and select all of our faces here, right? Okay, do we have another face here? No, don't think so. Now I'm going to go back to top view, zoom in and drag it one unit. Okay, now let's go back to object mode, building, and flip normals again. And now we can snap our light as we want. I think you can notice that we have to reuse this object with an emissive material again and again throughout the scene. So what if we have to change this light's appearance in the latter iterations? So this is something difficult because each light or each duplicated light becomes an instance of its own instead of a duplicate of some root object. So we have to do something so that all of these lights are inherited or extended from a certain root object. We can achieve this behavior by creating a prefab of our light, this corridor light, and duplicate this corridor light in the hierarchy, so that uh, editing this prefab object will affect all of the duplicates of that prefab object inside your scene. So let's see how to create a prefab of our corridor light object. I am going to delete my previous duplicates of this corridor light that we have in my scene, and then let's go back to the beginning and make a prefab for this corridor light. Okay, uh, now I am going to make this corridor light a reusable entity so that I can duplicate this again and again in my scene. So all I have to do is create a prefab out of this corridor light object. Okay. In my assets folder, I'm going to make another folder. Let's name it prefabs, and all we have to do is select this from the hierarchy and drag it inside our project folder. Right, so we have our own reusable prefab so that we can duplicate uh, instances of this prefab within our level. The advantage of having a prefab is you can actually uh, change this prefab, edit this prefab object, and all the changes get transferred into the each and every instance of this prefab that you have inside your scene. So since we are going to add multiple lights inside our scene, we can easily edit them by editing our root prefab object. in our project folder. So now I'm going to duplicate my light and uh, distribute it properly in our scene. You can see that my light map data is gone for some reason, because I actually deleted my light map data or baked data by clicking this clear baked data option in the generate lighting button. So I am going to duplicate my lights again properly. I'll keep my snapping to 5 units or 5 meters. Then I can easily duplicate them as we want. I'll make sure that all my cube shaped lights are placed to the horizontally aligned corridors in my level, so that we don't have to deal about inclined corridors for now. And we have one over here. Let's duplicate another one and go to top view. And then let's add another light for our entrance, just to give a signal, so that player actually notices this entrance. Yeah, zoom out again. Let's add another over here, and then yeah, that pretty much completes the horizontal corridors for now, other than the underground tunnels. Yeah, okay, so let's move them down like this. Where is that? Okay, Yeah, now let's bake our light maps again. Okay, now let's check our lighting for our corridors using the play mode. Control P. Right, so we can enter here. Yeah, we have good corridor, and you can see all our entrances to the bridges are lit up with the emissive materials. So we have our tunnel region left to add the lighting. Now we have a proper lighting for our corridor system in our level. So now if we go into our small this large area, the arena like part with the bridges, we need lighting for that region as well, and we also have lighting needed for this small room that we created before, which actually connects these three paths together. So let's try using other sources of lights that we talked before to incorporate in our scene for lighting these regions. First, let's try adding a point light to this small room so that we can illuminate this part as we want. In my hierarchy, uh, I'm going to create, sorry, we shouldn't be selecting anything here, and go to light, go to point light. Okay, and use the move tool, and let's move it into our room over here. Okay, and let's go to the side view and actually snap it to our ceiling. Yeah, it's better. So for our point lights, let's add a certain color and edit our intensity using the properties in the inspector. For now I am going to hide this lighting menu here and go to our inspector. Let's add a color over here. Let's go with something like green. Let's actually duplicate our color in the emissive material, right? Copy this, go to a point light and paste this and change the color of it like this, right? And then but still there's no visible effect of this light. Let's try increasing the range. Okay, now you can see increasing the range actually gives out a proper look for this region. You can actually try increasing the intensity as well, but still the look kind of gets off more you actually increase this intensity. So it's better to keep it in 1 and try changing the range of this light. So let's go back to play mode. Yeah, so maybe you guys noticed that I didn't bake the light maps again to check my outcome for this point light. What is the reason for that? The reason is the mode in which this light renders the color to our level. This light renders the color in real time instead of baking the light into the light maps. You can actually pick it as you want. Right now it is in real time. So every time you edit this light in your scene, the outcome happens in real time. So even if I move this light here, you can see all the changes happen without uh, any action doing after changing the light's position or other properties. You don't have to bake light maps again and again to check it. And also if we go to lighting settings and let's check our baked light maps. Right. You can see there is no green color content baked into our light maps. That's another proof that uh, our real-time lights are not getting baked into the light maps in the scene. Now let's add another light source for this region. For now I am going to rename this as room light and keep it as a prefab, so that whenever I create a new additional rooms, I can add them easily while creating this level. Now again I am going to create another point light and place it within our arena. Let's try centering it like this. Let's keep our color as it is in our inspector and keep increasing the range. Okay, now you can actually see the interior of our arena, but still it is not casting any shadows of this bridge parts. So we have to set up that setting in this light, especially to cast shadows, since it is placed in a position that actually has to render shadows. So we can select the shadow type here in our point light and go to hard shadows, and you can see how this light affects creating the shadows of this area. Or you can actually select soft shadows so that the impact of these shadows is lessened. And when you move the light, you can see how these shadows change. And you can also see how the shadows bleed across the corridors if I zoom in like this and check this region, how even the shadows get bleeded into the corridors while I am moving this light. And you can actually uh, give a resolution for these shadows as well. If these shadows are not very prominent, not very important to be rendered in a high resolution, you can give a low resolution like this and see how all the shadow edges are jagged because of the low resolution. And if you want, you can set it to keep it in the quality settings so that whenever a quality setting is changed in the scene, this light actually follows that quality to render the shadows in your level. You can also try changing the strength of these shadows like this. You can see the more it goes closer to 1, the shadow becomes black, and when the shadow strength goes to 0, shadow is invisible. You can try once as you want. Now since the black color is uh, not actually looking cool for this scene, it kind of looks too much contrast uh, as I see. So I'm going to reduce the strength of my shadows casted from this point light. Yeah, this is much better. This looks much better because also additionally this tunnel or entrance of this tunnel gets hidden because of these shadows becoming strong. So now we can show the shadows while revealing this exit or entrance to the underground tunnel. Right. Now let's go back to our play mode. Yeah. Now it looks way better than what we had before. Okay. Yeah. And now we have spotlights left for our mm, level. We have added point lights. You can see additionally you can see the shadow casted by our capsule when it is under this point light, the white colored point light that we created. So if we got the scene view, double click the player, Let's rotate around. You can see the shadow because of the shadow properties that we set to the point light. So let's try adding a spotlight to our scene as well. Now to add a spotlight to our level, let's create one in the hierarchy like this. You go to light and select spotlight. Now I'm going to place it inside the middle of this arena. Let's go to our back view here and lock it, zoom in and just place it in the top. And now we can change the properties of this light so that it actually affects with the objects inside our level. So let's select this again. No, before that let me center this light in our building. So let's go to top view, and I think it's better to be somewhere like here. Okay, it's not the exact center, but still it won't affect the look of this light. So I'm going to add the color here. Let's go with uh, red, just so that we can actually see a visible difference, right? And let's increase the range of this spotlight, and I think you can see this light is casting this circle onto the floor. Let's try increasing the intensity here. Yeah, now you can see clearly this spotlight. So for now let's reduce the intensity a little bit, and let's try increasing the spot angle. And again you can see we can edit this light in real time because of the real time render mode property of this spotlight. And again let's try creating shadows to this spotlight as well. For that let's go to shadow type, soft shadows. Yeah. This look is not very nice. uh, let's keep the shadows into no shadows here. Yeah, this is kind of, this looks better. Okay, so let's go back to play mode and check our level. Now that we have proper lighting in our level, the player can actually understand the positioning of himself or herself within the game level. So whenever the player sees this red color, we can understand that we are reaching the main arena of this level. Even when you are walking from this tunnel, this red light leads to this arena. So even though we didn't put colors into our prototype level, lighting has made sure that the player understands his or her positioning within the level. So this is kind of cool and useful. Okay, so we were able to use three types of light in different modes to light up our prototype level. So I am going to stop my video from here. Let's meet again in another video to improve this level further. See you.